Well, welcome back to another week of the Brazos Sports PrepsCast. I'm Alex Miller, joined by Abigail Ochoa. This is
Hey.
episode 6 of the season, and here
Wow.
we are, 1 week into 5A, 6A play. We will recap all that action and what is ahead. But first, just a quick addressing note. You might notice that our colleague Jeff Perkins is not with us this week. We just wanted to let y'all know, our viewers and readers, that he's no longer with the paper, but he is going to be greatly missed. Jeff is a great friend. He's a great writer, and he was really a key piece in putting this podcast together. So we really wanted to thank him for all of his coverage these past few years and wish him well in his future endeavors. So thank you, Jeff, for all you've done. You've been a great friend. We're going to miss you, man.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. I mean, he did so much for the Eagle, and we're so proud to have worked with him and known him. Can't wait to see what he does next. I know it's going to be amazing, whatever he does. Continue to follow him on Twitter and stuff to see what he does next. But we're so excited, and thanks again, Jeff.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Abigail, we have so much to cover. I'm really excited. It was cool to get some 5 and 6A schools rolling last week. So we'll dive right into it. First up, A&M Consolidated. They kicked things off on Thursday with a big win over Waco University. I think we expected the Tigers to win that game, but they won 63-13, and lots of answers or questions answered on the offensive side. Big night from Sutton Lake. He had 5 touchdowns. Kyle Willis threw for over 400 yards. And yeah, that Tiger offense, they didn't skip a beat.
No, for sure. And what a way to start off, 5A, 6A play with that big win like that on the road in Waco. But, they had lost so many people offensively, and we were, we talked about it last week, a little bit worried about kind of how they would do in this first week. We knew that they would win, but weren't kind of sure how they would win. But they really, they answered all the questions that anybody had. It was a great first week for them. They came in and dominated a Waco team, that was at home. They're coming off a losing season, so we knew that they were going to, Consol was probably going to win either way. But, like you said, Lake and Willis really came up, really showed that they were going to be the guys this week. Brody Daniel and Wyatt McDougall, also good receivers for Willis that kind of, came out of the woodwork a little bit. I know, offensively, there were, some rushers and receivers missing. So it was good to see people like that come out. Defensively, Goodman, we knew that he was going to kind of lead the defense. He had 13 tackles again, no surprise there. Moya, he had, he fumbled and had a touchdown there. So he kind of came out, helped Goodman a little bit defensively. The Tigers did have 6 turnovers, so maybe watch out for that maybe in the coming weeks. I think it was 2 interceptions and then 4 fumbles. So be something to look out for, but it's still a great start to the season for them.
Yeah, I was able to go out to Consol's practice the other day and catch up with Sutton Lake, and you can read my feature on him in today's paper and online at theeagle.com. But really got to catch up with Sutton and on his big performance. And yeah, I got to talk to Coach Fedora too. And it was really by committee on the receiving end too. They had 9 different guys catch passes. That's quite a few guys. And Coach Fedora did say that the turnovers are something they want to clean up. And he said, you point to a lot of the college games, their first game this season, it's been a little sloppy. So nothing serious to worry about, but definitely something they want to improve on. I mean, I don't think you want to turn the ball over 6 times every game. You're probably not going to win by 50 points often if you do that.
Yeah,
So
you're not going to want that when you get to district.
not at all. But yeah, definitely encouraging performance for the Tigers going into the season. So Brian, they beat Waller in their season opener 31-20. Kind of ran a 2-quarterback system with Malcolm Gooden and Nico Bullhoff. Good win for the Vikings week 1, off on the right foot for Ross Rogers' squad.
Yeah, they didn't score as much or didn't kind of have a presence much in the first half. They went down 13-10 in halftime, which surprised me a little bit, I guess, from them being at home. But again, it's week 1. I mean, there's going to be a little bit of struggle there. And I think that has to do with they have a young offensive line and stuff like that. So they have new people coming in, trying to get their feet wet. You know, Friday night's always like, it's a different atmosphere when you're not used to playing on the field. So I think that just had something to do with it. But otherwise, they had a really good game. 299 total yards, I think, believe. And, you know, but it was a good win overall. Like you said, Bulloff and Gooden seemed to be a good pair quarterback-wise. You know, and I believe Coach Rogers said that, you know, they can also be used at receiver. So it's good to know that, you know, if one's at quarterback, maybe one's at receiver, trying to connect with them as well. So that'll be interesting to see in the coming weeks, see how they utilize that. It seemed like junior tailback, so Tayson Devault, I might be saying that wrong, but he was also their guy too as well. So be looking out for those guys on offense as well. But the defense also came up. You know, I believe they had 3 turnovers, an interception, a couple fumble recoveries. So they kicked it into gear, you know, at the end there to come up with a win at home.
For sure. And how about those Rudder Rangers stormed over Bastrop 49-7, really exploded in that second quarter too. We knew about the potential that the Rangers had on offense, and that EJ Azar and Keithron Lee connection was rolling. Abigail, you were there. What did you see from the Rangers? An impressive opening win for them.
Yeah, it was crazy. I think we talked a little bit about it last week. We thought it was going to be tight and close game. I mean, they've lost to Bastrop the past 2 years. Last year they lost by 1. So we knew that it was going to be, you know, pretty close, these two teams coming back together to start the season. But Butter really came out and said, hey, we're here and we want to make it to the playoffs. We're going to make it to the playoffs this year. And, you know, even though it was the first game, I think we saw some really good things from them. Like you said, EJ Azar, junior quarterback, still has 1 more year in him, which is great for Rudder. And then you got senior Keithron Lee at wide receiver. I mean, you can tell that they're really connected, and they're really, I'd be surprised, you know, if they weren't best friends outside of football, because they just seem so connected in that way. And, you know, I was talking to Eric Azar, head coach, and he said that they practice so much. You know, sometimes he'll be at home and he'll be like, hey, where are you? And he's like, oh, I'm at the fields with Keith Ron or whatever. Marcus Dial, sorry. Also a great receiver for them as well, connected as well. I believe he had a touchdown last night. But offensively, you really saw them come together. Azar's arm looked great. He was connecting well. Didn't see much trouble there. You know, when Lee was covered, Azar could run, and he's a great rushing quarterback as well. So it didn't see really any problems there. DJ Wallace came in for the rushing game a little bit. Had a couple of touchdowns at 92 yards. And he kind of barrels through the crowd. I mean, he can get the extra couple of yards there, you know, kind of pushing the huddle there a little bit. So great guys that they have on offense. It looks like they're really strong coming out. They'll be at home this week, which I think will be exciting to see how they do with a bigger crowd. Obviously, not everybody can travel to Bastrop. So it'll be really interesting, but it was great to kind of see them come out so strong, and with Lee and Azar kind of leading them, as we knew would already happen. So.
For sure. And last but not least, the College Station Cougars, they've really made a statement in their win over Hutto. This offense is legit. Big breakout game from sophomore Marquise Collins. He had 11 carries, 182 yards, 2 touchdowns. And senior Roderick Brown, I mean, he stepped up in the way we kind of were wondering if he would. He was strong, had 127 yards on 11 carries. And he was also a threat in the pass game. He had 88 yards, 3 total touchdowns. So, yeah, Cougars, big win over a 6A Hutto. Defense played really well. And, yeah, I mean, we kind of thought that might be kind of a playoff atmosphere type game.
For sure.
And they made it look like an easy win.
Yeah, you know, last week, I don't know about you, Alex, but last week I was going back and forth of, like, who I thought would win this game. I ended up going with College Station, but I was kind of going back and forth because College Station had to, you know, replace a lot of starters, like we mentioned, and Hutto was coming in returning most of their key guys. They're led by, TCU commit Landry Watson. So defensively, I thought that they may overpower College Station's offense that's still trying to get going a little bit with new people. But College Station didn't have any problems, it seemed like, on Friday. Brown comes in the first half, gets 3 touchdowns, and then you got Collins coming in the second, really, getting his own as well. So I know, I talked to Roger Brown for the football preview that we did. He said he feels good. He said it feels better than ever. We really saw that in week 1, that he really came out and said, hey, I'm here. I'm going to be your guy. He also wants to break records. So I think, he's on his way with 127 rushing in the first game, 88 receiving. So, and then you also have Collins there to help him. So they looked really good. I know Jet, we talked a little bit about Jet starting at quarterback. He did get some playing time last year, but, Austin Sosa was there. So it was good to see also him coming in. He went 18 for 29 and had 218 yards in week 1. And so him being able to connect also the passing game while you have Brown on the rushing, it seemed like a good deal for them Friday.
For sure. And hitting some quick hitters on the small schools last week. I was out, watched a doubleheader for 6-man, and St. Joe's stunned rival Allen Academy. Huge night for quarterback Trace Brightwell. A big game from Twister Barrington, both on offense and defense. The Eagles, they scored the game-winning touchdown with 31 seconds left, and it was kind of a bizarre ending. Allen had a chance at the end, one untimed down from the 35-yard line, and they had a false start, and the game automatically ended without a chance to have a Hail Mary. So St. Joe's hanging on with a 48-44 win. That's a big win for them. And, both of those teams kind of have high expectations going into this year. Senior-led team. We've seen Allen, they kind of had to revive their football team. St. Joe's, they've got a ton of seniors. So it was a great game Friday night out at Baker Field for sure.
Yeah, I don't think it's the way that anybody thought it would go. I mean, obviously they were projected to lose, or Allen Academy was projected to win by 31 points. You can never go by projections, but still, that's a pretty significant gap there. And I think that everybody kind of thought that Allen Academy was going to take it pretty easily. So, this is the first time St. Joseph has beat Allen Academy in 6-man, and what a way to come out in the season. 48-44, I believe, was that the final?
Yes.
Yeah. And with Brightwell kind of leading the way. I mean, when you have one guy who gets 6 touchdowns and almost 300 passing yards and stuff like that, it's hard not to win, and it seemed like he did everything right. So that is a crazy way to end it. That's a really, I don't think I've ever seen that happen before, even in 6-man, but, what a way to come out.
For sure. Another instant classic up in Robertson County. Centerville on the road beats Bremond 36-32. And, we all know Centerville, known for that run-oriented offense, but it was Dylan Denman, this Tigers star receiver, who got the game-winning touchdown, 84 yards, 2.5 minutes to go. Man, that must have been a thrilling game. 2 really good area teams going at it. That definitely had to have a playoff atmosphere to it, and big win for Centerville, and tough loss for Bremond. I know that was a game that both of those schools really wanted to win.
Yeah, for sure. And, the Tigers come in, now they're 4-1 with this win over Bremond. Not a bad way to start, obviously. But Dylan Denman, I got to talk to him before the season started a little bit. He gained a few pounds. He was trying to get stronger during the summer. That was really his focus. And he, Centerville wants to make it past the area playoffs this year. First of all, they want to make it to the playoffs, but, they want to make it past area this year. And Dylan said that, now as a senior, that's really his last chance to do it. this game showed more than ever, I think, that he is, well, they have the chance to be able to do that later on this season. Obviously, it's just a start for them, but a big, win over Bremond on the road was big for them. So I can't wait to see what he does next. I think he's going to continue to be the guy for them later on. I was talking to Coach, and he said, Dylan is the kind of guy who turns busted plays into scores. And, we obviously saw that on Friday with the 84-yard touchdown with 2 minutes left, which is
For
crazy.
sure. And we'll be getting more on Centerville here in a bit. They got a big game against Leon this Friday. Another big game in Robertson County last week. This one was kind of a shocker, though. Franklin tops Lexington 49-14. Wow. I mean, I thought this was going to be a close game. Lexington, they were on a roll. Didn't expect a blowout. And Franklin just locked down Jared Kerr. He only had 37 rushing yards. I mean, that is a phenomenal effort by the Lion defense, because we know how good Jared Kerr has been and how great he can be. So that's a huge win for Franklin, especially with the way their season started. Tough loss, game canceled, another tough loss to Cameron, and now they go and beat Lexington. That's a big win.
Yeah, we got a text during that game at kind of an update, and I had to double check my text real quick because you just don't expect that from Lexington. Not that Franklin's not doing really well this season. It was just the role that Lexington was on. It was kind of hard to believe that, even after a week off, that they would, only put up 14 points, especially with Kerr. He only had 37 rushing yards, which blows my mind. But Franklin really, once they had the momentum in the beginning, they had it throughout. And I think that's a big thing, especially being at home. I'm sure that helped as well. We thought that Lexington, it wasn't going to do much the week off that they had. Obviously, there was some trouble there. But Fannin has been preaching all season. And, Coach Fannin from Franklin has been preaching all season that the defense needs to step it up this year. They need to be more physical. They need to be jumping all over the field. If they weren't buying into it before that game against Lexington this week, I have to imagine that they're buying into it now. Because if you can stop a guy like Kerr, who has so many college offers, you probably can't even count them anymore. And then you get a big win like this, just over Lexington overall, 49-14. At home after a loss to Cameron. I can imagine that they have a lot of confidence right now, and they should, because that's a great feat.
Absolutely, and I expect Lexington to bounce back. They're a good team, and I expect them to bounce back. And last but not least, Dime Box. Just want to touch on them since I was able to go out and watch the Longhorns game. It was a tough loss for them. They played Avila Christian from just south of Dallas. They were without their starting quarterback, Blake Scott. That was a tough hit for them. And they only had one day to prepare for this team. Their game against Belleville Faith got canceled on Wednesday. Coach Fry got a call the next day, getting the game against Avila Christian set up. And it was tough for them to overcome the short preparation and not having Scott. And it was a tough day, but I expect the Longhorns to shake that one off.
Yeah,
they're favored to win their district, and they've got some good playmakers. And I think Coach Fry was very encouraged that, his team was making mistakes throughout the game, but in the moment they were recognizing, hey, we did this wrong, and they didn't hang their heads. They weren't frustrated and mad. So it was a good plus for them. And he also said they just needed to play.
Yeah.
They started their season really late, and every team at this point just needs to play games, especially in this kind of odd time we're in. So expect the Longhorns to shake that one off.
Yeah, and they have McDade this week. Like you said, I don't expect them to continue this onto this week. That loss, it happened, and whatever. But having the preparation is a big thing. I think, especially this season, we're seeing it kind of affect teams that you wouldn't think it would affect. We saw it at Iola and Franklin. They had either a week or 2 weeks off, there in the middle or at the beginning, and with little time to prep, maybe 3 or 4 days. It's really hard to get your team all together and back in that game mentality when you haven't been, you either haven't been playing or you haven't been practicing. So I think we've been seeing that throughout this season, especially because of COVID. So it was tough to see that in the beginning for Dimebacks, but like you said, I think they're going to bounce back. But did you see anything that that they're able to kind of grasp onto, maybe whether it was like defense or offense? Was there anything that kind of stood out maybe this week?
I definitely think they have potential on offense with Mason Spacek, excuse me, and one of their other guys. They've got some dudes on offense, and once they get Blake Scott back, I think that's going to be a big help for them. He's kind of, it seems like he's their go-to guy. So I definitely think that they're going to get things rolling on offense again. And they were coming off like a 45-0 win. Yeah. So it was just a tough week for them. So we'll see what happens moving forward. All right, let's move forward. Let's preview some games this week.
Yeah.
Overall, there were a lot of explosive offenses in week one. And I think the question across the board for the big schools is, can they keep it up? But first, before we get into that, Bryan, their game against College Park Thursday night has been canceled. It was canceled Tuesday night. That's a tough one to lose for Bryan coming off their win. Now their next game is going to be against Montgomery Lake Creek, I believe, next week. And like you said earlier, we've seen how these small schools, they've had issues coming back from not playing and not practicing and just having that time off. It hasn't been friendly to those who have had to go through it.
No, and I can imagine the Vikings are very happy about having to, coming off a win in week one and then week two not even getting to play. It's tough to see, especially for these teams that have waited an extra month or an extra few weeks to start, to see them kind of stop so early. So hopefully, they're able to, next week they're able to get some good days of practice in, because they're going to need it. Like you said, it hasn't been working for teams who have had to take, these weeks off and stuff. And it's tough to see, especially for, the local schools, 5A and 6A, who've already had to wait until September to play, and now we'll have to wait again. So
for sure. And we wish everybody get healthy soon over at Bryan.
For sure.
But we got some other games that will be played as of now. Rudder, they're going to host Pflugerville Weiss Friday night at Merrill Green Stadium. Abigail, I think you're going to be there. Is that correct?
Yes, I will be there again for the Rangers.
So the question is, can Rudder keep it rolling? Weiss, they lost to Leander Rouse, who Consol is actually playing, and we'll talk about that in a minute. This week. Weiss lost to Rouse in their season opener by 22. Another big win, I feel like, could maybe start putting Rudder on some more of the statewide radar, something they haven't had before.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it'll be a blowout like it was this week, 49-7. I don't think it's going to be like that, anything crazy. I'm not even sure if it'll make it to, how they played Bruce with the 49-27. Weiss is coming off a great season in 2019. They did lose week one, but I wouldn't expect that to change how they play this week. But with that being said, Rudder is very confident and they're on a roll right now. They'll be at home with a bigger crowd. I mean, some people did come out to Bastrop, but when you can win like that on the road, I feel like you'll have more confidence at home with the bigger crowd, with people that around you. So they're coming in very confident right now, I would think. I don't see them starting 1-1 to start the season, just because of what I saw last week. Their offense is really clicking. They really seem to be on the same page, and defensively as well. So I don't think it'll be as close as much of a blowout as it was against Bastrop, but I think it'll be a close game. Weiss is going to want to win for their first time, so it'll be a good game. But I don't think Rudder's going to stop too much of what it was doing in week 1.
For sure. And A&M Consolidated, they're on the road again this week, making a long trek out to
Yeah.
Leander playing Rouse. That offense was potent week 1. We already talked about that. They really spread the wealth. It was a collective effort. Sutton Lake, he had his big game. And I guess the question is, will those guys continue to make those big plays? And, maybe does one guy kind of start separating himself from the pack that they seem to
Right.
be using? Gonzalez favored it by 21 points in the Harris ratings in this game.
Yeah, Rouse in its win against Weiss had 36 points, I believe, in the first half alone, unless I did my math wrong, which is totally possible. But they looked good. This is going to be another tough one. They're on the road. Gonzalez on the road again, having to make that travel again in the first 2 weeks, which I'm sure is not ideal for them. But they were able to do it in week 1. I would assume that Lakewood kind of should continue his kind of reign there. He also kicks for Gonzalez. So, he's able to score and then make that extra point. So I can imagine he's pretty happy about that. I know you've talked a little bit about what he thought about the game last week. So I'm sure he's pretty excited. I think the Tigers will continue. Like I mentioned earlier, they're going to have to get away from those turnovers. I think especially against Rouse because, Rouse seems to be the team that will capitalize on that. And you don't want to see that because then they can get way ahead in the first half. If you throw an interception, if you fumble, maybe even once, it could change the game. So I think that'll be something to look out for. But I don't see Gonzalez slowing down anytime soon. I think they feel really good right now with what they have, minus those turnovers.
For sure. Cleaning things up is definitely a priority for the Tigers, and they don't have those first game jitters, and they've got to feel good about themselves after week 1. So, and our last big game of the week, College Station, they're on the road. They're playing Fort Bend Bush on Saturday night. The Cougars, they cruised in week 1. We went over that earlier, and I guess the question is, what does week 2 hold? They're going on the road for the first time. It's a Saturday game. Makes the week schedule a little different.
Yeah.
We know about Fort Bend ISD too. Fort Bend schools, they always have great athletes. I know A&M, they're hoping its stud from Fort Bend Bush, Anais Smith, has a big game in the Aggies' big game earlier that day.
Yeah.
So what do you think is the big thing to watch for the Cougars on Saturday, Abigail?
Yeah, like you mentioned, obviously, if a player like Anaya Smith can come from Fort Bend Bush, they're obviously producing pretty good players. I mean, we saw what he could do in A&M's first game. But it'll really be important for College Station. I think especially for the younger guys who are coming in, or maybe the guys who haven't started as much, in the past. To not get in their head about it, like you said, it's on Saturday. They're going on the road for the first time this season. They've only been practicing at Cougar Stadium this whole summer. Up until August, and then now for to start the season there as well. So I think it'll be important for them not to get in their head about being on the road and stuff like that. They still have a good chance to win. I mean, we thought that last week playing a 6A team was going to kind of hurt them maybe a little bit offensively. And they were able to prove that they can come out of that even with a tough team like that. Coach Steve Huff talked about wanting to play these tough, run-centric offenses really early to see what his kids could do, to see what how they get out of problems and situations. So I think this will be another test for them as well. But I think they did prove last week that they're capable of taking care of, the things that they need to do. So I'm excited to see kind of how they react to this game and how they get out of maybe certain situations that Rouse puts them into.
For sure. Well, going on to a few small school quick hitters, we have some teams off this week. Navasota, Madisonville, and Caldwell, they all have bye weeks, but there are still a few big area games this week. I will be at Centerville in Leon. The Tigers are traveling to face their intercounty rival, Leon. It's the District 11 2A Division I opener for both of these teams. Great rivalry. And it's going to be a tough stretch for Leon these next 2 weeks. They host Centerville, and then they go at Normandy. And Centerville, coming off the big win against Bremond, we already talked about. They're kind of on a roll, really finding their way right now.
Yeah, especially that big win over Bremond. Like I mentioned earlier, they're probably very confident right now coming into this week against Leon. Now, Leon hasn't, I believe that they're 3-1. I think they've only lost one game to Dawson. So they're in a good spot still, but really tough teams coming up here. You got Centerville, who's, only lost one game as well, had a couple big games against Bremond. And then you have Normandy, who's been doing great this season, with Mason Hardy and Isaiah Jones at receiver. And, you got so many guys there as well. So it'll be a big one for them. I think Centerville's maybe, probably going to come out in this one, in the district opener. But Leon still has a really good chance to kind of push them a little bit and give them a little bit of a challenge. And it could be a close one if they play their cards right.
Sure, I was at that one last year. It was the season finale, and Centerville had to fight hard to fend off Leon in the end. Yeah. And another big game in the area out in Milam County, Cameron Yo traveling to Rockdale. They lost their district opener, to McGregor last week. The Tigers have lost 3 straight games. They lost that really heartbreaking game to Lexington by 1. And it's just kind of been a downward spiral these last couple weeks. They haven't been able to get back on track. And, losing this one, that could knock them out of the district title race already after week 2. Yeah. And it's going to put them in a tough spot to try and make the playoffs. And Cameron Yo is rolling. I mean, they've got it going over there.
Oh, for sure. It's surprising that Rockdale has kind of put itself in this situation. They lost 3 straight, which I don't think anybody saw coming, especially with the guys that they have there. They were supposed to be pretty tough contenders in this district. I think they can turn it around this week, but it's going to be really hard. It's going to be a tough game for them to come back from. Cameron, like you said, is rolling. I mean, they have a good thing going right now. They beat Caldwell last week. They had 27 unanswered points, after going down to Caldwell was leading, and then, Cameron came back and won 54-27. So, they have the ability to come back, but they're just a strong team. I mean, you have Zane Zeinart, who last week had 4 touchdowns and 250 yards, and once they get going, it's hard to really stop them and their defense. We saw that in Franklin again. We thought that game was going to be pretty close, and Cameron came out. They got some momentum early and took on Franklin at their home. So it's going to be hard for Rockdale to come back with this one, but they're going to have to if they want to have a spot there towards the end of district.
For sure. And just a couple other area games of note. Snook, they're facing Burton, and Somerville, they're taking on Iola. So I think that covers everything. Yeah. Man, what a doozy. But here we are, week 2, the big schools and small schools. They're rolling into district play, getting into it down the home stretch. So, yeah. Anything else, Abigail?
No, it was a good week. I think people are surprising us every week. I know my picks are like going out the window half the time. But, teams are surprising us. They're really good matchups that are coming. And 5A and 6A have only just started, so I'm sure that's going to get better as we go along. But it already had a great first week. So it should be a good one. It's a good season so far for everybody.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again, everyone, for tuning in to another episode of the Brazos Sports PrepsCast. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe on Apple Podcast and Spotify. It's International Podcast Day, so I had to plug us a little bit.
Oh, there you go.
So, yeah. Also, and what were you going to say?
I was going to say also follow us on Twitter. I'll be at Rudder at Y, or Whiteside Rudder, sorry, at Merrill Green Stadium this Friday. I would go at Ochoa 88. And Alex?
Yeah, I'll be at Centerville Leon at Alex Mill 20. And be sure to send in scores. Tweet us at Brazos Sports so that we can keep track of the games that are going on around the Brazos Valley so that we have plenty of more good content to talk about next week. We look forward to this every week. All right. Well, thanks again for tuning in, and we will catch y'all next week.
Bye.